For the first question, how would you describe The Boys season 4 in one word?
Oh, Lord.
Wet. Fly.
Sly, you said?
Yeah.
Um, Asshole.
For Susan and Valorie, what most excited you about joining The Boys universe?
The team, from the writers to the stunt people, to the costume team, to the satire, to what's going on in this moment. The team is so incredibly responsive to what's happening in the current world. I was really, really excited about that.
Yeah, for me, I was most excited to join the show because I feel like it is perhaps the most unapologetic in its satire. It has a point of view. I think a lot of content is being made that is trying to, touch on what's happening in the real world right now, but it is afraid to have a point of view. And I don't feel like Eric Kripke and the writers and everyone on the team is afraid to do that. And that makes me feel safer, to really jump in and go deep with satirizing what's happening right now.
What, besides your own, what character on The Boys do you relate to the most?
I mean, I think Ashley's the most relatable, which is probably a terrible thing to say. But I'm a big Ashley fan, but also, I don't know. I feel like she is in some ways like the proxy for the audience of like, if we were as a real person if we found ourselves stuck in this nightmare, how would we cope, and would we cope, and how crazy would it drive us? But yeah, you make it so human, and her vulnerability is so apparent that it's so very relatable.
100%, 100%.
Guys, that's really nice.
I mean, you're so great. You're so great at being human and funny and smart. Like, you're kind of who we would want to be in that.
Oh, that's really to say that. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. That's very nice. I was thinking, I think Huey, we all enter the world behind Huey's eyes, and like seeing how he is like not somebody who's in touch with violence very much. Like, he's not witnessing a lot of violence, and how he deals with this season. We get to see him a little bit encounter violence in a different way, and like the arc of that the writers have built, and also that Jack Quaid has played so beautifully over the course of 4 years, it's really cool to see. And like how we become numb to violence over a long period of time when we're exposed to it so much is like, yeah, I relate to that.
What do you want people who haven't seen the show to know about your character?
That she's like the most fashionable babysitter of all time.
That you wouldn't want her to babysit your children.
That you probably already tried to hire her to babysit your children.
And your kids now speak 10 languages.
You're welcome.
For Valorie, what can you tell us about Firecracker and what role she plays in season 4?
I can tell you that, Firecracker has always been an outsider, and she is ruggedly tenacious, and she will always find a way to survive, and often in the margins, and that this is the first time she experiences being on the inside and what that means. And I would also say that despite perhaps appearances, like, she genuinely cares about people, and that's a big driving force for her.
Colby, this season we get to see Ashley outside of Vought and in some very interesting situations. What can you tease about her journey this season?
I can tease that she finds a new way of dealing with her stress, and it's kinky.
Susan, what is it like to play the most intelligent person in the world? What are Sister Sage's motivations this season?
I would say any kind of superlative like that's going to make someone lonely. And the questions that come up of how she uses that power while trying to maintain any kind of connection with the people around her was one of the really fun parts of this season.
First up, this is a question for all of you. How would you describe The Boys season 4 in one word?
Yeah.
Intense.
Unexpected.
Nice.
Juicy.
Yeah.
So second question is, what are you most excited for fans to see in this season of Boys? We'll start with Chace and move on.
I'm excited for them to see at least the deep storyline this year was really fun for me. We talk about, like I can talk about. So I think it was really, I've always kind of wanted to see him go darker a little bit and have these outbursts, and they wrote to that this year. It was really, really fun for me to have those moments, and it's kind of tragic and funny. I mean, the Ambrosia scene in the Smash ends up being, I have a dark sense of humor. I was laughing, but it's also, you know, this kind of like heartbreaking scene. It was like Marriage Story. And anyway, I thought that was a very fun, you know, place to go. I thought as a fan and how much fun I had playing the character, it was a lot of fun seeing the Deep kind of try and get to Homelander's level and say, okay, maybe this violent thing I can lean into a little bit, which was fun for me.
Yeah, I'm excited for everyone to just see the performances from the whole cast. I mean, we set out a hard challenge because this season we really wanted everyone to deal with something very primal in their past, you know, so like Homelander has to deal with how he grew up. So
Right.
does Huey. Deep has to wrestle with his one-up chance to be happy. Like everyone has, Annie is wrestling with who she is as a person. You know, Kimiko is trying to speak, like, and has to deal with her past. Like everyone's dealing with like their core trauma in a lot of ways, and everyone just brings the heat. Like they're so complicated and nuanced and difficult performances, like just up and down the board. Butcher dying, and Carl gives like this heartbreaking season-wide performance. So I'm just excited for everyone to see the hard work of the cast.
I'm excited I'm excited for everyone to see the way that the show / the writing team everyone, but you guys cook it up, obviously, is mirroring the real world. I think it's really interesting the timing of the show beginning in 2018, 2019, was it? 2019. What's happened since then politically and socially is kind of incredible. We're in a very special moment in history, or interesting moment in history. And I get a great time to be making a show like this that can so directly poach from the real world. And I think I think there's a lot to take away from what we've presented, from what's been written. Apply it to your own filter and hopefully go and vote and do something constructive for the country.
And this one's for Antony and Chace. What character on The Boys do you relate to the most besides your own?
Oh man.
Which ones aside from ourselves?
I don't know. Who would you say?
Who would I, for you?
No, for you. Who do you relate to the most outside of your character?
I'm thinking. The character that I would relate to the most outside of myself. So the character that I would relate to in the show the most would be Huey. I think he's the most normal in the show.
Yeah.
He's a little insecure. I'm a little insecure. Kind of finds his way by bumping his head and, you know, going in and out of testing the parameters of his identity. And, you know, I think we all do that to a certain extent. I think for that reason, he's the vehicle for the audience in a lot of ways. So I think he's the safest bet as well.
I mean, that was my answer too. I choose Huey as well. So for most of the same reasons, he is the most normal character. It is. And Jack plays it so well. He's like, you can see everything in his eyes and face all the time, and his reactions to everything is so good. So yeah, I think him being sort of the eyes of the show for everyone is he's such a great character.
What do you want people who haven't seen the show to know about your characters?
The Boys is about what would happen if superheroes actually existed in the real world, and The answer is they would become megalomaniacal, narcissistic, spoiled celebrities. The aquatic hero who could talk to fish would have an incredible inferiority disorder because that's the dumbest fucking power possible. And the Superman character, or the ultimate powerful character, would have a slow psychotic break from reality because it's too much power for any one human psyche to carry. Plus a lot of like sex and blood and fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun. I think that's one of my favorite things about the show is, and a great reason for anyone that hasn't seen it to watch it, is that, you know, you can go as deep. There's a rabbit hole you can choose to jump down and see how deep it goes, or you can take it at face value and just have a wild ride. It's a very well considered and put together show that's really multifaceted, multi-layered, and really enjoyable.
Yeah, the Deep cares about animals, sea life, aquatic life. You can talk to them, and that's the coolest thing about the Deep, guys.
Yeah.
We know it's cool, okay?
No, he's upset with his powers land.
I'm upset now, okay? You'll see
He can also swim fast, so whenever there's a water adjacent
come to the water. Come to the water. See you in the water. Come to the water, and then we'll see. Yeah. Come to my turf. Yeah, the Mariana Trench. But the unpredictable nature of the show is so fun, and I genuinely think every actor is so phenomenal within their role. It's always fun for me to see what they do, even though I've read all the scripts, and the writing is top notch and it's so cohesive. Go watch it. It's a lot of fun, and it's not like any other superhero show you've ever seen.
Yeah, man, it's a good show.
All right. And the next up for Eric, what character on The Boys is your favorite to write for?
I
have possibly.
Do you want us to leave the room for this?
Yeah, I can tell you which character is like fun to write for, and I've said it before, but the Deep is the one that is like a soothing sorbet in the room when we're writing him, because like he's always up to the most absurd stuff.
Yeah.
His dialogue is so fun and funny to write. Chace crushes it every time. So everything we give him, we know is just going to be like hilarious. And so like the character that makes us laugh the most in the room and have like, oh, we're having a fun time is when we are breaking the Deep story. I love writing for all the characters, but like I lay awake at night about like Homelander. I'm like, what's he think about this moment? And all the boys and all the characters, like just making them really like, you know, psychologically complicated. And then we get to the Deep and we're like, he joins a church. We just have like a blast writing the Deep. So I'll say the Deep.
That's great.
All right. And this one's for Chace. What kind of future do you envision for him and Ambrosius?
Oh, for him and Ambrosius. Well, it's not much of a future now, is there? I mean,
what if like before the
before?
and we're gonna spoil it. Yeah.
A bucket and a toilet flushing.
If he had a pair, he would take his woman, and they would go and they would go to the water.
His woman.
His natural, sorry. I mean, I'm just saying his wife. I mean, he would make her his wife. Yeah. And he would be okay and comfortable with who he was and who she was in their environments. I mean, they're quite literally fish out of water. I said it. That's so stupid. Yeah. But if they went and did their thing, I think he could finally at least be happy.
That's really true. If he didn't hate himself,
right,
he would go off with her and be happy. She's so obviously his path to happiness.
Exactly.
But he hates himself too much to take it. Yeah.
He's addicted to Homelander's validation too. So there you go.
Antony, there's an impressive sequence at the start of season 4 where we see Homelander silently taking in the world around him, and all we have is your expressive face. Can you talk about what it was like to shoot that and how you weaponized Homelander's silence?
Is this the riot?
This would be like the montage of
Coming out of court.
You're in court, and no, in the middle when you're in court, I think it's when you're in court, and then Ashley is telling you about the tower, and then you're watching Starlight right before the scene about making him blow A-Train.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what they meant.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
It is that scene?
Yeah, it's that sequence of.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Wasn't it cool? No. How do you do it? So when you have to come up, saying it's silent, how do you pull that up?
Okay.
We can come back to you.
No, it's okay. First of all, I mean, I love scenes. I love non-dialogue scenes. I love doing, not saying. And I think I remember seeing an interview with, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying, you're never doing nothing. You're always doing something. And even if you're listening, you're thinking of what to say, or there's always something going on. And I think those scenes, to be able to just still down and concentrate as well, because generally a lot of those scenes, especially the one you're talking about, is generally sits in a tighter lens, tighter shots. And on this show, we're lucky because we get those shots. It's not actually, I'm going to start this again because I was about to shit on something else.
It's not like that fucking bullshit on Banshee.
Do you know what? No. I was going to say, I just saw something. I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Fucking shit. No, they did it there as well. What I love about that scene is that I don't have to learn lines because I'm a lazy actor. No, but I love those scenes where you're allowed to just sit and let the camera do the work. And as long as you've got a bit of an internal life going on and you've got thought going on, then the camera is going to get it. And I've learned to trust that as we've done this show and other shows as well. And thankfully, that's recognized in this show, and we allow those moments to sit and breathe, which you don't always get. So, I feel very, very fortunate, and I love it when those moments come up.
Sorry, follow-up question, because I'm genuinely curious. Are you in that particular scene at that time, or are you transferring from something else when your job is to be silent and for the audience to sort of read your face? Like, what are you?
Whatever the scene is,
you're in that,
whatever
that moment is.
Yeah. I think I know other people would be like, well, I'll be thinking about my dog. I'll be thinking about this. And I'll be thinking, it's like stringing together emotional pearls that aren't connected to what you're doing. But I personally think it's like, I remember we had to do a green screen pickup of something outside, and there was a whole, like, this happens, then that happens, and this is, and it's just about it's like being on stage. You're never going to see snow out the window. You're going to see what snow means to you, right? So it's that it's being in the moment and going internally through whatever it is. I wouldn't find it very helpful slipping out of the scene. Whatever's in front of you is going to be much more present and interesting.
All right. And the next one is for you, Eric. Parenthood seems to be a big theme in season 4, especially Homelander's relationship with his son. I'm sorry, I'm getting a note. Let's cut parenting question. Okay. Moving on to the next question. We're going to go, Eric. Can you tell us how you got Tilda Swinton and Will Ferrell to be part of the show?
Oh, yeah.
Tilda came from, once we learned that Ambrosius was going to be a talking character this season, we wanted to go after just like the biggest, classiest, British, most Oscar-winningest actress we could possibly find. And when you look, there's about 4 or 5 of them in the world, and Tilda was on that list. And so we went to her. We don't know her. We didn't have a connection to her. We just went through her reps, and there's clearly something amazing about her because she's like talking octopus. like that fucks this character. Like, yes, please.
Yeah.
And she was there. And so she came in for one day to record all of her lines, and I was there. And it just was one of the best professional days of my life, watching this unbelievably talented actress say the dumbest shit. And I'm just like, it's just it was really a tear in my eye. Will Ferrell came from at the time we were talking about me potentially writing a movie for him. So we had a meeting and we're emailing a little bit, and then that part came out, and I thought of him because it's just funny to me that like at that point Will Ferrell's like, it's time for my Oscar, and then he goes for that movie. And I just emailed him and said, would you like do this stupid part and come out to Toronto for 30 hours? And he wanted to, and he was so gracious. Couldn't have been a more horrible weather day. It was like freezing rain going sideways. And we were all like, oh my God, we're so sorry, because you have to stand outside in these horrific conditions. And he was nothing but smiles and gracious, and this is totally fine, and like making the crew laugh. And it just always, I'm always amazed at like the biggest names are always the sweetest people.
Yeah.
And he, you know, obviously he is laugh out loud funny. And there was one thing I will say, and this is Amazon censored us, is when when the director goes up to Will and is telling him that he's going to get his Oscar, they make eye contact, and then there's a take where they just start making out. And they're just like,
I was gonna make it.
yeah, no, they're just making out, and they both emailed me, and they're like, please, can we use that tape? And I, for the record, I put it into the first cut that I showed Amazon, and they were like, but does it make sense though? And I'm like, no, makes no sense. But we ended up not being able to do it.
I should have done it.
That footage exists. We'll put it in the blooper reel.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
Yeah.
How would you describe The Boys season 4 in one word?
I was
Cliff
about
dive.
turbulence.
Turbulent. Yeah.
Turbulent.
Emotional hurricane.
One word.
One word. Oh,
Hurricane.
hurricane. Emotional. Shit show.
Shit
show.
That's a hack
I
shit
like
show.
that. I
Shit
like
show.
that.
Because it's two, but
Yeah.
it's one.
Bleak.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. It is very
It is
bleak.
bleak.
You know, bleak is
Bleak is a
that's
good
it.
one.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lock it in.
Bleak.
A lot of good words. Okay. What are you most excited for fans to see in this season of The Boys?
Oh my goodness gracious. The new character.
Yeah. Valorie.
Yes. Yeah.
As
Oh my
Firecracker.
God.
Susan.
So good.
Sage, Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, it just adds these
Yeah.
new flavors to the recipe that just
Yeah.
don't disappoint.
No.
They really don't ever.
Everyone comes in and brings their A game.
Yeah.
It was so much fun to watch them.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to read something in the script and then see it actualize become it's even more perfect than you'd imagine. So
Totally.
They do their characters brilliantly.
Yes.
I like the minute they come on screen, I'm like,
Yeah.
like it's
It's
just
so fun to watch.
It's phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
It's coming into the show. So yeah.
Excellent. What character on The Boys do you relate to the most besides your own?
Kimiko.
I would say
Kimiko.
the deep.
Yeah.
The deep, probably.
I'm like, really?
The fish guy for me. The deep.
Wow.
I like fish.
I love that. I like fish. So I like fish.
I like fish a lot.
I like fish.
Or maybe butcher.
Oh, that's dark.
No, the
That's
deep
just
for
season
sure.
one.
Dark.
The deep for sure.
Season one.
Period. That's my answer.
He's having a laugh. He's having a great time.
I haven't looked at octopus.
I'm trying to think.
Who's
Ashley. No,
Whoa.
I don't know. Not Ashley.
You know what?
No, it's not a commit
These are good
because
answers. These are all
I'm just saying
horrible
characters that I like.
I'm just the
I
deep.
love Ashley.
He resonates with me on a profound
So the
level.
deep Ashley Kimiko.
Yes.
All
Lock
right.
it in.
Look at it.
What do you want people who haven't seen the show to know about your character?
What would we want people who haven't seen the show?
When you
to know?
hear the name Starlight, it's not what you think.
Hmm.
In a good way.
Mhm.
In a satirical, witty way.
What would I say?
I'm trying to think.
What would I say about Kimiko? We've all just short-circuited.
Like
different.
I don't know.
it's just not what it's not what you think. None of
Oh,
us
for your character, I think.
What would you say?
I-
Watch
I-
out.
No, I think that people don't realize how much of a vulnerable position she's in until
Yeah.
we see the cracks begin to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more
Like
beneath
more
the
more
surface.
not what you
relatable.
think.
It's
Yeah,
not what-
yeah,
it's
okay,
not
yeah.
what she's not as cold-hearted as
No.
She ain't what
she
you think.
presents in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I say about Kimiko?
Oh.
She
I
is
just love watching Kimiko.
I know.
I just love
These
it.
characters are so surprising, but in a
Yes.
non-arbitrary way, in a way that feels like, oh, there we go. Multi-dimensional characters that are paradoxical, that don't make you feel like shit if you fuck up, or they don't make you feel like a god if you succeed.
Yeah. Oh, I think for Kimiko, I think she has a softer side to her, which is
Yeah.
unexpected because
That's
she's so
interesting.
violent
Yeah.
in the
You
beginning.
guys have a vulnerable side. I have a strong
You
side.
gotta-
You do,
you
yeah,
gotta- yeah.
There's that, but unpredictable.
Yeah.
Very, which I love.
I love it. All right, Claudia. Do you consider Victoria a villain? And if so, what are some things you do to make your portrayal of her more sympathetic?
Ooh.
I don't think she's a villain. I think that that's a very. I'm always weary when anyone uses that word when it comes to the show, because I think the show operates in a very morally grey kind of realm, and I don't think anyone's fully a villain. Any character, anyone whatsoever. But Neuman, no, I don't see her as a villain. I see her as someone who's surviving with the tools that she knows how to use. And those aren't necessarily good tools, but it's what she knows. And I think a lot of people do that. So it's just an extreme of that. And she has the power to explode heads on top of it. So, you know. But sorry, what was the second part of the question? Is she a villain? And
what are some things you do to make your portrayal of her more sympathetic?
I don't think I really have to do much to make my portrayal of her sympathetic. I think I get given that by the writers. I really think that they work that into the story so well. You know, you can see that it costs her when she has to inject her daughter with V. You can see that moment. Like, I don't have to force it. I don't have to make it happen. It's there. It's already on the page. And so I just have I just get to bring it to life. So I don't do much. Actually, it's kind of just all.
We're all very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's smart writing, because otherwise I wouldn't give a shit about the character.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I wouldn't.
Love
That's
it.
my
Okay.
answer.
Karen,
Yes.
Kimiko has an incredible fight scene in the first 10 minutes of season 4. What was it like to shoot? And what can you tell us about the baby arm?
Oh my
I
goodness.
love it.
I loved that sequence. What's your daughter's name? I'm blanking.
Zoe.
Yeah. I'm like Chloe? Zoe. You know, it's the first time we're seeing Zoe's powers come into fruition.
Yeah.
And it's frightening. It's frightening. During that shoot, someone was puppeteering the tiny baby arm.
So unsettling.
And we were on a green screen with full wind fans. And it was just such a weird experience, but super fun. You know, she's like trying to reach for Annie and misses by a couple inches, and then she falls flat on her face, and then her face falls off, peels off.
So good.
So good. The funny thing is, you have to remain like determined amongst the absurdity.
Oh,
like, I'm looking at that baby arm, and I need our lives are dependent on that.
on that arm.
And it's like, it's just so absurd.
Yeah.
That would have been the funniest thing to shoot
so
on the
funny.
day, right?
There have
Just
been
like,
so many moments where you're like, this is so
yeah,
absurd, but
this
also
puppet.
focus.
I love that we
Yeah.
started off the season with such a dynamic scene
So
as
good.
well, you know.
Yeah, it's like the first 15 minutes,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It was
love
my
it.
Just a
first
little
couple days on
lubrication.
set. I loved it.
Just a little lubrication to
Yeah.
Start
Kick
smart.
off the season.
Get us in
Yeah.
there.
Perfect. And final question, Erin, this is the first season that you are only Annie January. What can you tease about her new life as part of the boys?
Oh, I can tease that ironically, she is Annie January for the first time. She's taken more control over her life, and she's not actively participating in this dual persona lifestyle. But ironically, she herself sort of catalyzes this trajectory that involves dual personas in terms of who she thought she was and who she really is. And that discrepancy is very hard for her to take on. So it confronts her with a whole other obstacle that she didn't even think she was going to have to face, that is not dissimilar and that is just only more intense.